My name is Melitas Akelo. I was initially born Melitas Otoy Akelo, but along the way God changed some names and I'm now called Melitas Akelo Shama.
On Testify today, it's our pleasure to bring to you Bishop Melitas Akelo Shama. He is the presiding bishop of the Tabernacle of Testimony Christian Center based in Kenya. He shares with us how his in-laws dispossessed him of his house after the death of his wife and how God intervened to have the house back last year, December 31st, 2020. He was born and raised up in Budalangi, but he later moved to settle in Port Victoria near Marenga Beach.
Initially, I went to Port Victoria Boys Primary School and then to John Osogo Secondary School, which was then Port Victoria Boys Secondary School. And after that, I moved to the city of Nairobi because my dad used to work with Kenya Railways. That's where he retired to go and settle at home. But my uncle, the late Nicholas Sihuhulo, was working with the Kenya breweries. So I came to stay with him and I had interest in sports because I was an ardent soccer player.
As a professional footballer, he played for several teams such as Umeme FC, Bungoma Shooters and their Baluya Football Club, which was renamed AFC Leopards.
So I was playing the right fullback, that famous Ingwe team that mauled Gor Mahia, Luo Union and what have you, and we became the national champions. We are talking of 1978, so we're not talking of today years. And we became the first team to win that cup for Ingwe. That is the Eastern Central Championship in Somalia. But something happened along the way, and what happened along the way was Jesus came my way. And I remember the current Archbishop of the Redeemed Gospel Church, that is Dr. Arthur Kitonga. He used to preach at the field where we were in Uruma. That time I was staying in Uruma. And he used to preach, but I would say, this man is making noise to us. He has come to interfere with our practice because the field where we used to practice from is where he used to come and preach.
One day, he decided to go on a drinking spree. Something happened that quickened him to come back to his senses and made a decision to receive Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior of his life.
And as I was walking back across the famous Komorok Bridge, I met another group of thugs. There were 6 of them, but they were walking in twos. So the first 2 allowed me to pass, and I passed. But when I met the next 2, when I was right at the edge of the bridge, they pushed me and I went down. And one of them had a knife right in his hands, and he put it right here. And he said, if you scream, we will kill you. And so I didn't scream. Somehow I got some courage and I told them, please don't kill me. Take whatever you want to take, but leave me with my life to go and take care of my children. And so they became my first prophets in my calling. And one of them asked me, are you a pastor? I said, no, I'm not. Don't you unasikia nanuka pombe? And he told me, but only pastors have that courage and speak like that. So the guy was prophesying into my life that that's what I was going to become. And so after that, they allowed me to take whatever they wanted. When I woke up the next day in the morning going to work in Westlands, I didn't need somebody to preach to me to surrender my life to God. I walked into a church. Then Crisco used to meet at the Nairobi Cinema. They used to have their morning devotions there and lunch hour and evening prayers. So I just walked in, the man came, he didn't even preach anything about salvation. And there I am sitting And then after the service, I walked to him. He told me, what is the matter? I said, I've listened to your preaching, but I've made a decision. I want to give my life to Christ. Then he led me to Christ. That was the beginning of my journey into salvation.
He then joined Deliverance Church Umoja, where he was discipled into ministry. In 1993, he joined the Civil Aviation Chaplaincy for a training, which led to an opportunity to serve as a chaplain at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport.
And it is through chaplaincy that I met, let me use the word, who is who in the Pentecostal circles. That's how I met Archbishop Kitonga. That's how I met my daddy, Bishop Tumising, who is my neighbor next to me here. And I met the others, JB, and I began to minister to them because every time they traveled in from outside Kenya, from the US, from wherever nation they had gone to, being a chaplain and respected, they would tell me, are we having guests coming in who are missionaries? I would tell them, I have fathers of faith who have gone to preach the gospel out there and they are arriving today on this flight. And they would organize for them and receive them as VIPs, take them to the VIP lounge and their luggages being cleared by the customs people. Then they would meet them on the outside as they go. And from that day, I became a friend of the fathers. In fact, it's Dad who told me, when I look at you, I see an intercessor. So you need to join the prayer ministry. And he ushered me into a prayer ministry. And I joined Mama Ruth Kioko at Nairobi Baptist, at the Wailing Women. And we prayed with them. And then later on, we linked up with John Mulinde from Uganda. And he used to come every month. When we used to do prayers at Nairobi Cinema, every month we were hosting him. And then he reached a point where he said, you people, you need to set up prayer centers where you live. Even if you're going to start from your house, whether it will be 4 or 5 or 10 people, just go and start. And so that was 2008, because 2008, we had a whole month of praying monthly for the nation after the post-election violence. And thereafter, I developed interest in ministry and I just became a serious intercessor. I went back to study again. We went to the School of Christ to study again and we studied, I graduated. And after that, I felt that was not enough. I joined the Leadership Institute. I again was there for another 1 year. And I was still interested in intercession. I never gave up intercession. And after that, that's how I became a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And Daddy here came again to ordain me as a minister. He ushered me in the prayer ministry. He came to ordain me as a minister. The same Daddy again ordained me as a bishop. And that is my journey in Christianity, and it's still going on.
Akelo later met the love of his life, got married in 1995.
You know, we started the journey before I knew who Christ was. But along the way, we decided we are not going to be, you know, people say, come, we stay. And so you come and stay. But you see, along the line I discovered, come, we stay can turn into come, we go. Because you can come, we stay, and you can also say, let us go. And so I didn't want to come, we stay to turn into let us go. I wanted to be something that will be permanent. But then when Christ came through that incident which I shared, I discovered that that was not the right route to take. The right route to take is the way of Christ. And so that is the route that I take. And so I, like my children that were born during that period of time where I saw nothing wrong with drinking, it has taken the hand of God for them to shift and say we cannot drink, but we follow the way of our dad. But those who came after the salvation, I think if you tell them anything to do with alcohol or cigarette, it will be a strange story to them. Because they were born, they never saw me drink, they never saw me smoke, and they have become children of substance. We were at Umoja too, that's where we used to live. And my wife was working with CIC And there came a time CIC was giving out support to their staff, either buy a car or buy a house. And so when she came to ask me, do we buy a car or do we buy a house? And having had fathers, I consulted. And Daddy said, yes, you can have a car. But when the landlord goes berserk, you and your furniture and your family will not fit into the car. So get a home. And that time, this house was there, but it had burnt down completely. And the people who were staying here were not born again. They were into the world. And so as I was talking to him while serving as a chaplain at the airport, he told me, there is a place, can you come and see? So I came. And he showed me the place. I liked it. And I went and reported to my wife that there is a place next to Bishop Tumising that is on sale. And so we came with her to see the place. And we came and we secured. I wrote to my friend in Germany, Klaus Holzer, about it. He started sending me some support. And then CIC gave the loan. We secured the property, and we began to rebuild the place because it had utterly been burnt down. The only thing that had remained was the SQ at the back. And so we started rebuilding the house slowly from 2002 in February. And by August of the same year, we moved here, but staying in the SQ because the main house was not complete. And I remember Baridi and Ngong, it really hit us very hard. Very hard, because Ngong was cold. It was forests. These many houses you see were not there. There were very few houses. It was just a forest. But we settled down slowly until we brought it to a completion. And then along the line, something happened. Because in 2004, I went to Australia for the chaplains conference. I made friends there also. I stayed there for 3 good months, came back. In 2005, disaster struck. She became sick in the early months of 2005. And she was in and out of hospital right from March, April, May, June. Then come July on the 30th, she passed on at Coptic Hospital. She suffered from skin cancer. I broke the news to the relatives. We planned for the burial. Apparently, we didn't bury her here. Battles began. Others said the nyumba ni ya dada yao. Others said other things contrary. But by the end of the day, we buried her. And immediately the burial was over, the real battle began. 2007, in the month of August, the real battle began. And they came full blast. And I was beaten, not physically, but with words and actions. And so the next thing we did, we ended up in court. We filed the suit in court. They were contesting that they should have it. I was contesting that I should have it according to the law. But then they were still using the old law and the old traditions. But thank God, there came a 2010 constitution that was very clear. And that time we are still battling in court. We went to court. Another day you go to court, you have been summoned to go. You get there, the judge is not there.
The battles with the in-laws forced him to leave the house and settle elsewhere, even though the court ruled in his favor.
When we went to CIC, they were able to secure a false letters of grant. They were paid all her benefits. Regardless of the children, they spent that money on their children instead of my children. And so there was a boy who had just done his 4th form. He needed help. And then there was a girl still in primary school who needed help. So me, I was like, sasa hii ni mambo gani that is affecting me? They totally disregarded the children. I remember one day, we call it Masakwa in Luya. Masakwa is a man you have married from the same family. He used to work in the United Arab Emirates. That's where he used to work. He had come visiting and he was here, and he went and bought food. And he brought the food inside. They cooked. I'm talking about my sisters-in-law. They cooked the food, and this is where I'm sitting here. This was my bedroom. Then it is now my bedroom again. And so I am there, tears like David of old in the Bible were my food. They didn't care whether I ate or whether I didn't eat. And he asked, "Where is Baba so-and-so?" mentioning the name of my children. Of course, there was Duncan, there was Anita. They said, he's in the bedroom. "And why are you not calling him to come and eat?" And they said, "Kwana menunua chakula." And so he said, "No, but it is I who bought this food, and this is his residence. You cannot do that to him." And you know, he's a Muslim, not a Christian, he's a Muslim. But the people doing this are Christians, purportedly born again. And so that was the kind of suffering I went through. I lost my weight, not because I was fasting, but because of the mistreatment. These guys are here, they are not paying rent. So we fought a court battle all the way from 2007 in August through to 2014 November. That's when the ruling was done.
Due to the conflicts with the in-laws, he had so much bitterness towards women and had made a vow that he would not remarry. But finally he found one who was suitable for him.
You know, I became so bitter, to be sincere, so bitter in my spirit, though ministering, that I didn't want anything to do with a woman. Kabisa, sikutaka kuoa kabisa. I wanted to live single with my children because of the torment that women had taken me through, and these women were my in-laws. And so that bitterness caused me even to preach. I was preaching in a church in Uruma. I had been invited to go and preach. And I made a very radical statement, God forbid. And I said, to tell you the truth, I'm not thinking of marrying. And if God will ever say that I marry, I can never marry a Luya woman. Even if you give me that woman plus $1 million shillings, I will refuse. That is the statement that I made out of bitterness because of what I had gone through. And later on, they invited me again. And you know, in that church was full of Luyas. Some of them began to scream and cry. And others came to ask for forgiveness on their behalf of the things I went through. And somehow I retracted that statement and said, what God will give me, I'll take. But then Daddy had a mission in Chogoria. So he told me, we are going together with you. So I went with him for a mission in Chogoria in Meru. And as we went for that mission, he was the main preacher. Me, I was the armor bearer. And in the process, there was a girl who was leading worship for the joint fellowship of Chogoria. And that girl is called Maureen Kangai. And so, while I was there, she's leading worship. I am the armor bearer. So I was called to go and preach in their church because we couldn't sit in one place on Sunday, and it was a conference for leaders. So I went to preach. And after preaching, I just felt in my spirit to propose to her. And I asked her pastor, can I talk to this lady? The pastor said yes. So briefly before we went back to do the concluding meeting, I mentioned to her that I would like to make her part of me. And she said, let me go and pray. So I allowed her to pray. And that day she was the one interpreting for me when I was preaching. And so, just to make fun, she interpreted herself into my life. And so after that, 6 months down the line, no communication, no calling. And I was like, hey, ni kama amesahau. So one day she calls. I was actually sitting on that water tank. And she calls. And as she calls, she tells me, I've had a breakthrough and I'm willing. The intercessors that we were praying with at Nairobi Baptist, led by Mama Ruth Kyoko, they came together and raised money for me to get married. And we moved on. Until today, we are together, serving together in ministry. We are together preaching. We are together interceding as a result of the body coming together to make sure we are settled.
They were attacked by thugs and survived unhurt.
That day still rings in my heart. We were attacked by thugs. In daytime, not at night, during the day, at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And I was sitting just behind here, outside. I just had people jump in, and they were armed with rungus. So I jumped out over the fence on the other side, ran through. There is a pathway that takes you through up to the outside until I got to Ngong Police. And so when I got to Ngong Police, I reported the matter. The police came, but the goons had gone away. They were not there. And so what happened is Mama advised me, the wife of Bishop Trimising. She told me the best thing to do is not to stay here, move out. And so I moved out. I didn't know where I was going to get the money to rent. And so somehow, the same intercessors again, they raised money to give me to pay the first 2 months. And so I paid the first 2 months from money raised by the intercessors. And the children were devastated. So they also moved out. They came to stay with me. And we lived in that rented house. First, down there is an old man. He goes to the Anglican Church, St. Barnabas, which is just down here. And he said, Mchungaji, there is a house here. You know, they used to call me Mchungaji because I had organized a fellowship which brought the Christians along this road into one fellowship. We would meet here or meet in Bishop's house or meet in the next neighbor's house. And there is a shosho we buried on Friday. We also used to meet in her house. She goes to PCA. And this man offered me 2 rooms. He even cut the center door in the wall to create room so that one will be a sitting room, another one a bedroom. And we didn't have sufurias to cook with. So they bought sufurias for me. They bought a stove for me. And we began that life out there. And we have rented all the way from that year 2009 until last year 2020 on the 31st of December. That's when we came back here.
I remember some time back before my dad remarried, I remember I was from school and I found his stuff outside the house. So me nikashinda, where is my dad going? But then I stayed back. Came and told me, I'd like you to stay with me because I believe it is safer when you're staying with me and I'm going to take care of you. Then I just said, okay. I just packed my stuff the next week actually. Then I went to stay with them. But then I used to feel bad. I used to see my dad, okay, I'm going to school. At the moment, my dad didn't have a job, but I managed to go to school. He managed to pay my fee. They still managed to pay the rent. All I can say is just God did it, because there's no single day I can complain and say that we lacked. But then I hadn't known the full truth. So coming to know the truth, nilikuwa shocked, because najua these are the people tuna expect watatushikilia na tukilia na tupanguza machozi, because they are our immediate family. So mi nikasema tu, God, vile will yako unataka iende ndivyo itaenda, na hakuna siku mse mwenye ni righteous atakuja akuombe na umnyime. We mwenyewe vile unajua kufanya mambo yako utafanya. So mi nikaingia college, still it was God. How the fees was paid, it was God. Me I cannot say ati kuna namna ingine, because every step enye tumekuwa tukimake with my dad, hiyo yote tu imekuwa Mungu. Na mimi kabisa hizo siku zote ndo I always tell God to bless this man, because yani ile yenye amepitia sahi anahitaji yani baraka juu ya baraka juu ya baraka juu ya baraka, because ingekuwa maybe ni mtu mwingine angekuwa sha give up na maneno ya hii nyumba, and maybe hata angekuwa sha sema wacha tu iende vile kutenda, and the way people do a lot of self-cursing. But then for him, he doesn't do that, because he still used to pray. We prayed until the end of last year. That was when we had a breakthrough to the house, and we came back to the house. Actually, ilikuwa inakaa like a dream, because the first days tukiingia ilikuwa yani getting used to the fact that we were here and then we are not, and then we are back. Yani ni God too.
The people I treated so well are now mistreating me. The people I prayed for are the ones that are planning attacks on me. And me, I'm like, God, what is it? So I'm praying, real praying, seriously. A light just appeared, a very bright light in this bedroom here. And so, what did I do? I couldn't understand myself. Where is the light is coming from? I thought I had forgotten to switch off the light. But when I checked, I found the light had been switched off. And so I was like, am I being attacked again? I almost screamed. But I got some courage to continue praying. Then I heard a voice. And the voice told me, forgive them. Me, I was like, what are you talking about? Forgive them? And the voice repeated again, forgive them. So I asked, forgive who? Because I wanted to get a response. And the voice said, your in-laws. And I responded back. I said, I was not on the wrong. I never attacked anybody in their house. It is them who came to attack me. Why should I forgive them? And the voice said again, forgive them. So I said, some of them are not even near here. And when I came from Germany, I had a Samsung C35 phone. So the voice said, send them messages. So I took that phone, a Samsung C35, and I sent messages. And this was the message that I sent. Just as Jesus Christ forgave me, I have also decided to forgive you for the things you have done to me from the day my wife passed on until now. And the next thing that happened is I had those who are sleeping in the other bedroom waking up, going to the toilet, because they were woken up by the noise of the text. You know, those phones are not like what we have today. You can put on silent. Kalikuwa lazima katoe sauti. And so I sent that message, and I sent to all of them, kabisa. So when I was moving with a forgiving heart. The people I thought would be at my side to stand with me were the ones that were making me to suffer. In fact, I wrote a sermon out of that depression, and I preached it in Thika this year. The members, the enemies, your enemies are members of your household. I have that sermon with me. Maybe one day I'll preach it on Hope TV and people will get to hear it. I went into deep depression because here I am. I'm a sojourner paying rent as if I don't have a place to live that is called home. I have to beg for school fees for my children because the little that I get has to go into something else. Here I am, my children are living as beggars, as if they don't have a home. Even when I was walking from here to town, I didn't know I was going to get to town because at one point I just thought, sinijirushe tu matatu ipite na mimi as I'm walking. Na hiyo story ishie tu hapo. But then I would think of the children. Getting money was an issue. Even if you go to preach and they give you an offering of 1,000 shillings, you have children who must eat. You have a wife. And I thank God for my wife because she did not waver in her faith to say huyu mzee alinitoa kwetu amenileta kwa shida. She still stood strong. And she would go, she never went hustling at wacha niende kutafuta vibarua kufulia watu manguo or something. She spent most of her time in prayer, just as I was praying. And God would just send angels and they would come. God told me to bring you this unga. God told me to bring you this chapati. God told me to bring you this sugar. God told me to bring you this. And all those people were coming in that depression. I remember John Mwangi, he works with World Vision. He came when I was utterly depressed. And he spoke to me about Joseph of the Bible. And he told me, Pastor, you are complaining, you are murmuring. And that becomes part of my sermon. Members, your enemies are members of your household. He asked me, who sold Joseph into captivity? I said, his brothers. These are members of his household. Then when Joseph got to Egypt, who caused him to get into prison? I said, the woman that she served. And when he was in prison, who forgot about him? I said, the men he helped. So he told me, your story is not different from Joseph's story. All you need to do what Joseph did. Tell them your intention was for evil, but God's intention was for good, so that I can save a nation. The Spirit was leading me, just go, start living a life alone, away from here. It's like they are looking for your life so that they can have it their way. And we had a long struggle. They reached a point when my son came back here, Duncan. And while he was here, they were always at war with them. In fact, you come and tell me, Dad, I think mahali nimefika, enough is just enough. Ukisikia nimeumiza mtu, usiulize swali. Nikamwambia, no. Just do what I did. Be at peace. God will come through for us. And then we had to go back to court after the ruling in 2014 that gave us the go-ahead to maintain the property. We were given the letters of administration in my name and Duncan's name. The ruling was very clear, sealed by the court. I still have it sealed. In fact, I'm thinking of going to laminate it so that it doesn't fade away. And we went back to the lawyer. He wrote an eviction note, filed it in court. Nothing was moving. Imagine from 2014, she was not moving. We went back again, nothing was moving. But I did something. That something I did, I filed a case in the courtroom of heaven. And I did something prophetic. I took the ruling from the court and the letters of administration, laid it at the altar of prayer. And I told God, I'm filing this petition to you. creator of heaven and earth, the overall judge, and I placed them on the altar. I left them to sleep there all night long so that God would come and read the ruling. A crazy faith. And after that, as we went to pray back the following day, I picked my documents and I came back to the house where we were renting, where I gave the first testimony. And what happened is my brother-in-law, the son called him, complaining. And he called me. I told him, listen to me. I've never been at war with anybody, that's why I'm renting. But now another war is erupting between the children and their auntie, and I don't want to go that route. I have filed an appeal in the courtroom of heaven, and I'm waiting for God to release his judgment from the courtroom of heaven. And on the 25th of November last year, my brother-in-law calls me and says, give her time, she'll move. I said, no, you ask her the time she wants to move, not me to give her time. And she said, I will move. Do not harass me. That's the language she used, do not harass me. Then one day they had again an exchange with my son, Duncan. Duncan comes where I live very early in the morning. He says, Daddy, I cannot stand this. I asked him, what is the problem? He said, these people are too much. They have to leave today. Hawatalala kwa hiyo nyumba leo. I told him, please, be at peace. We prayed together. I gave him a cup of tea, and they released him. And you know, they used to be very strange. They would cook tea and not give to him. They would cook food and not give to him. And the boy had grown thin. And I said, God, you have to stop this. And God came through. To tell you the truth, God came through. And I went to the police here in Ngong, where we live here, Ole Polos. I showed them the ruling, I showed them the eviction notice, and they made a call. They said, we have a ruling from the courts and we have an eviction order from the courts. And we don't want to act in a manner that's going to sever your relationship, because nyinyi ni watu naona you are related. And they asked her, tell us, when do you want to move? Because we don't want to come and evict you. She said, just give me time, I'll go. They said, no, tell us when. She didn't open up. And so what happened next is I told the police, be patient, let's see if she's going to move. And then she called me and said, before Christmas, I'll have moved. And so I said, please let me know when you are moving so that we arrange securing of the house. But she didn't do that. What she did is she just moved out quietly without informing me. It is the wife of Mr. Ochieng who called me and told me, your people have moved. That was on 25th of December last year. Your people have moved. I said, but we agreed they were going to let me know. She said, they have gone. So I called Duncan. Duncan confirms they have gone. And he insists, you must come back immediately. Come in, because they have gone. They may change their mind and come back. I said, no, they will not. And so I came, we secured the house. In fact, if you look at most of the things on this house, they are dilapidated because they were not taking care. I think they took an attitude, nyumba si yetu tutawacha vile ilivyo. And so I came, I checked the taps in the kitchen. They were tied with the rubber bands. I checked the washrooms. They were not flashing, they were all spoiled. I checked the front. I found the fisher boards were all removed. None of them was there. And the timber was now getting rotten. In fact, I'm planning to buy some timber. I asked Afundi to pass through here in the afternoon at 5 so that he can do the measurements and then go on top, count the mabatis that have gone bad so that we can do another roof completely. And then I went, started repairing the taps, started repairing the toilets and all that stuff. But one thing I thank God is I didn't go the way of the world. And on the 29th of December 2020, I invited my spiritual dad again. Because when we came here, it is him came to pray for the house and dedicated it to the Lord. And so I called him again. So on the 29th, we had a rededication of this house back to God. And after the rededication back to God, we now moved in on the 31st of December. So 1st of 2021 found us back home. And on the 20th of this month, we had a Thanksgiving service here to tell the Lord thank you. We didn't just want to do things the way of the world, but we did it the way of God. A Thanksgiving service, I invited friends. They came, we gave thanks. I invited a pastor to come and share the word. And I invited intercessors to come and join us here. And we bless God for that. And what I want to tell my fellow colleagues, those people who have gone through challenges like I did, do not give up. God will always come through for you. Don't go the way of the world, because it can even cause you to lose your life. Because if I had fought back, maybe I would have died long time ago. But I held on to God because I know God is able. Then, the other thing I want to tell my friends out there, they may be going through similar situations. Trust God always. Trust God always. He will always come through for you at the right time. Don't try to rush God. Let God come. The 15 years I stayed out is a good enough lesson to teach you patience and to teach you perseverance, so that at God's timing, these things will just shift and you'll be back again according to God's way. In the name of Jesus Christ, Son of the living God. The other thing I want to advise my friends and encourage them, don't you ever despise the spiritual fathers. Always honor them, walk with them. They will always be there for you, like they did to me. Bishop Adoyo was always there for me. He educated my children during the primary school. That stipend he used to give me $30,000 per year. And my spiritual dad here, Bishop Tumising, when they were transiting to university, he was there for me. He even signed the help forms on my behalf as a guarantor. You see, those are the people that will help you move. Don't leave them. Archbishop Kitonga, he was there for me. Though I'm an intercessor, prophetic intercessor, he calls me my prophet. He was always there for me, telling me if anything goes wrong, call me, I'll see how to stand with you. You are my son. And so honor these people, and they will also do things. They will pray into your life. They will petition God on your behalf, and God will come through for you. And now I'm speaking as a preacher man, not as, yeah? So that when he comes through for you, give him glory and honor, and you'll see what God will do for you in Jesus' name.